Hi, this is Walt Mossberg at the Wall Street Journal, and this week I reviewed Apple's new iPhone 5, which manages to be both bigger and smaller at the same time. It's bigger because they've increased the size of the screen from 3.5 inches to 4 inches. And it's smaller because the way they chose to increase the size of the screen and a bunch of other engineering they did allowed them to make this phone roughly 20% lighter and thinner than its predecessor. Now, I really liked using this phone, and it was partly because of the way they managed to combine these two changes. Instead of increasing the size of the screen by making it both taller and wider, they chose to just make it taller. The phone and the screen are still the same width side to side in your hand, and I find that it's much more comfortable to hold, or to use, especially to use one-handed, or to put up to your face to make a phone call, than a lot of the leading competing smartphones, which have gone to screens that are even larger than 4 inches, much larger, 4.8 inches, 4.5 inches, and which are both taller and wider than screens of just a couple of years ago. Those phones to me are just a little bit too big. I realize there are people who like that size, and it's great that there is a choice of phones you can buy where you can go to the bigger screen or some other features. But for my money, this iPhone 5 retains the iPhone's title as the best all-around smartphone on the market, particularly because it now has 700,000 third-party apps, which is more variety and more choice in apps than any other phone platform. There are some downsides to the iPhone 5, two in particular that I'll mention. One is that in order to accommodate the thinness, they've changed the connector you use to plug in the cable for charging or syncing. It's a much thinner, smaller connector, and that connector also affects the ability of the phone to be plugged into accessories like speaker docks. So people who buy this phone are going to have to invest in adapters Apple is offering, which will allow it to work with things that relied on the older, much larger connector, and those adapters are $29 each, and that's not going to make people happy. Apple claims it's going to stick with this new connector for years, but this change is still a pain in the neck for people. The other thing I didn't like about it in some respects was mapping. Since its start, the iPhone has used a version of Google Maps built right into the phone. But unlike on Google's own Android operating system, the version for the iPhone did not have a voice-prompted turn-by-turn navigation built in. There was navigation, but it wasn't voice-prompted and it wasn't automatic turn-by-turn. Now in this new iPhone 5, Apple has substituted an Apple Maps app of its own creation, and it does have very nice turn-by-turn voice-prompted navigation. However, it doesn't have some of the familiar features in Google Maps that I think people value, like Street View, which allows you to get a photographic sense of where you are on the map, or routing via public transit. Apple's going to rely on third-party apps for that. We don't know how that will work out. So I think the Maps thing is also going to be annoying to some people that buy this phone. But overall, I think the iPhone 5, which goes on sale Friday for a base price of $199, the same base price as its predecessors, overall, I think this is the best smartphone on the market, and I liked it a lot. This is Walt Mossberg, and I'll see you next week.